For more on the global stock market meltdown, let's talk to Henry To of CB Capital Partners. He joins us from Irvine, California. Henry, welcome.
Thank you for having me.
So we have not seen this level of panic in some time. World markets plunging, Chinese stock down nearly 8.5%, their worst performance in 2007. The Dow dropping more than 1,000 points after the opening bell. What is going on here?
I think in general, to sum it up, there's a loss of confidence right now. When you look at the Chinese market, for example, like you said, investors were expecting the Chinese government to come in and prop up the stock market either directly using 5 trillion RMB of funds or indirectly through the cut in the required reserves ratio. That has not happened yet. I expect that to happen sometime in the next 2 weeks. In the meantime, U.S. investors have been attuned with a rising market for the last 3.5 years, essentially, no 10% correction. And so now we're experiencing that over here as well. So
you're expecting some kind of Chinese intervention in the next 2 weeks. Why 2 weeks, Henry? Why not now?
I think there'll be more of a wiggle room for Chinese policymakers in the next 2 weeks. When you look at how much money they already spent on the markets, when you look at how much currency reserves they have, the way that they had to devalue the Chinese yuan, they have their hands tied a little bit right now. But given that they have a $100 billion trade surplus every quarter, they're still accumulating foreign reserves outside of the recent foreign outflows. I think they're going to have more of a wiggle room sometime in the next 2 weeks.
Talk to us about the impact on ordinary Chinese investors. Many of them are young. Many of them may not necessarily be wealthy. And in fact, some borrowed money to invest in the stock market.
I think it's a tragedy. I think when this boom began about 18 months ago, I think there was no set communications in terms of the government directing individual investors to the stock market. Now, I think now we see the fallout from that. So hopefully, the Chinese economy is still very resilient. Chinese wages are still rising by high single digits. I expect these investors to come back at some point, but probably not right now.
Henry, I got to ask you about falling oil prices. We're talking about $39 a barrel. That's pretty low. How much does this play into this global economic meltdown?
You know what? We are actually moving into oil right now for our clients because low oil prices actually benefit China, India, most of Asia, including Singapore, Korea, and Taiwan. And we are bullish on oil prices right now as we speak, just because when you see oil production from the U.S. over the last 2 months or so, U.S. oil production is actually declining from about 9.6 million barrels a day to about 9.35 today. So production is adjusting slowly, and we expect oil demand to continue to increase. I don't expect anyone to change their driving behavior, their oil consumption behavior, just because of what happened in the last few weeks in the stock market.
What would you tell nervous investors around the world?
We're picking our spots right now. We like Asia. We think that's a growth story that is not going to end anytime soon, irrespective of what's going on in China right now. I think China is maturing as an economy, and to some extent, they're having to deal with that maturation, so to speak. I believe the Chinese yuan, the renminbi, is going to be inducted into the IMF special drawing rights basket sometime in the next 18 months. That's going to make the Chinese currency into a reserve currency. Now, I think that when that happens, China will be more inclusive into the global economy, so to speak, and I think that's a very good benefit for Asia in general.
And finally, Henry, Asian stock markets open in a couple of hours. Any predictions what we're going to see?
I think there'll be more volatility. I think there'll be some stabilization at around 3,200 for the Shanghai Composite. I don't believe it will go down below 3,000 in the Shanghai Composite. Like I said, I believe the government will come in with some policy in the next 2 weeks to support the markets.
I know a lot of people will be watching. Thank you so much, Henry To. We appreciate your time, sir.